So we're beginning the Mishnah now on Daf Lamed Tes. And yesterday we discussed Moment Shein Lam Tovim in the case of Aniyim. And we had this concept that the Gabbai Tzedakah is the Aviyam Shel Yisomim. The Mishnah says the following: Shor Shel Pikeach. A Pikeach, the word Pikeach, which literally translates as an intelligent person, here it means he's a bar das, and he's capable of making decisions. He's capable of guarding something like a shor that could go out and damage. So the Pikeach owns a shor, shenogach shor shel cheresh. Now we have to emphasize here that the cheresh is someone who is both deaf and mute. If he's capable of hearing, even if he's not capable of speaking, or the reverse, then he's not called a cheresh. And a cheresh, like the next two cases, categories called shota v'katan, is a lav bar das, and he's generally speaking not responsible for his actions. And in this case, not responsible for his negligence in guarding the shor. But nevertheless, the Mishnah paskins chayav. Now, what does chayav mean? Chayav means that if it's a short time, you pay chatzi nezek, shor mud, you pay nezek shalom. Now, in this case, the cheresh shot v'katan was not the owner of the attacker, but rather was the victim of the attacker. So when we say that cheresh shot v'katan is chayav, what we really mean in this case is that the one who is nogeach a shor of a cheresh shot v'katan, he's going to be chayav. He's a bardas. And the Mishnah explicitly says in the next line, v'shal cheresh shot v'katan shenogach. In the case that we mentioned earlier, where the attacker shor was owned by a lav bardas, shenogach shor shel pikeh potur. So the Mishnah clearly holds that you cannot hold a cheresh shota v'katan responsible for negligence in not guarding his shor because he's not a bardas. Now, does this mean that the nizak, the pikeach, is completely out, meaning he has to suffer a total loss? However, here it depends on what we call gufo. And the shor, in the case of a shor tam, collects migufo. The compensation is collected from the shor itself, meaning the shor will be sold on the market, let's say, and its value will be given to the nizak to compensate for his damages. So therefore, the word potter here is a little bit misleading. It doesn't mean potter meaning that the nizak is out and he has to suffer the loss, but rather what it means is that Bezdin will not collect from the bank account of the cheresh shot v'katan. And the reason for that is, first of all, because there's no negligence here on the part of a cheresh shot v'katan. And beyond that, you could say that we don't collect from Yisomim. And that's halacha called Ein Govin Minichse Yisomim. Let's go on in the Mishnah, and a lot of what we touched on will be addressed in the Gemara. Shor shel cheresh shot v'katan shenogach. Now the question is, after this shor has proven to be a nagchan, and it's on its way to becoming a muad, which is a public menace and a danger to the public, therefore we have to take precautions in order to warn the bailim to take care of the shor and protect the shor, prevent it from going out and damaging, because otherwise it's well on the way to becoming a shor muad. However, we cannot really warn the bailim, the owner of the shor, who's a cheresh shot v'katan. He's not a bardas. So the Mishnah therefore stipulates that Bezdin Mamidim Lem Apotropos. So the Apotropos was appointed by Bezdin to oversee all the financial properties of the Cheresh Shota V'Katan. And in this case, of a shor that was an Ogeach, a Nagchan, Mamidim Lehem B'fnei, Me'idim Lehem B'fnei Apotropos. We're going to fulfill the requirement of Ha'adah. Ha'adah means to testify about the Negicha and the step in which the shor is on its way to becoming a shor muad, which requires the bailim. The edus always has to be in the presence of the owner, but here there's no such thing as warning the cheresh shot v'katan, but instead we communicate with the apotropos. The testimony will and the warning will come in front of the apotropos, and the apotropos is the one who's in charge of guarding the shor. So that's called me'idim lahem b'fnei apotropos. He's like the trustee of Bezdin, and he's in charge of all the monetary rights, and in this case, obligations of the cheresh shota v'katan. So in this case, the shor can become a shor muad, and if you ask the question, well, how could he become a shor muad? We need testimony, and the answer is the testimony will be in front of the apotropos, this trustee. The Mishnah continues, this pakeach hacheresh nishtapa ashota vehigdil hakatan. Now, the shor is now, after 3 testimonies on 3 occasions of Negicha, has now been pronounced as a shor muad. Now, what happens when the owner of the shor becomes a bardas? The cotton becomes a gadol, etc., etc. Here we have machlokas tanoim. According to Rabbi Meir, chazel tamusa, which means that as long as the shor was in the domain and the protection, or shall we say the supervision of the trustee of Bezdin, the apotropos, then it had the status of a shor muad. But now that the apotropos is out of the picture, and the owner of the shor stands on his own 2 feet as an independent agent, then we have to go back to the state of Tam and begin the entire process of Ha'adah and Mu'adus in order to establish the shor as a shor muad. But Rav Yossi disagrees. Harei hu b'chezkasa. The shor has already been established to be a shor muad. It remains a shor muad. The fact that the bailim changed has no impact on the status of the shor. And finally, the Mishnah concludes with shor ha'etz tadin, which we would talk about, let's say, in Spain, where they have the bullfights. So you've trained the bull to go out and be angry and belligerent. And in that sense, the Mishnah says, if the shor kills a person, which normally we put the shor to death, eino chayav misa. We will not put the shor to death. And this seems to indicate that the punishment for the shor of skila, when the shor kills a person, is not a punishment to the bailim, to the owner, but rather to the shor himself. If it was a punishment to the bailim, then adarabba, we would say kal v'chomer that the bailim deserve to be punished and to pay for damages, and in this case to pay what's called kofer, for the death of the victim of this attack. But in the sense that the shor is innocuous, the shor, I shouldn't say innocuous, but the shor is not guilty, it's innocent because it was trained to go out and damage and to kill, then we cannot put the shor to death as a punishment for the shor. And we'll discuss this later on in the Gemara, but the Mishnah derives it from a pasuk. Shenemar, it says with regard to a shor that kills a person in Parshas Mishpatim, v'chiyigach v'lo she'agichu acher. So the kiyigach is the active verb, which indicates in this context the initiative of the ox, and yagichu is what we call causative. And we caused the shor to go out and be nogeach, and we trained him as such. That's called the shor itztadyon. Now, the word itztadyon itself would seem to be perhaps a Greek word, and it means the arena in which people used to come around, and especially they had special box seats, for the king and his officers, and they would watch this spectacle of the bullfight in a public arena. Gemara asks the following kasha. The Mishnah seems to contradict itself. Ha gufa kasha. Amrit, in the Reisha of the Mishnah, it says shor shel cherish shod v'kotten shenogach shor shel pikech potter, which means that if the shor is owned by someone who is not a bardas, and as a result, there's no bailim that could be blamed for not watching their shor, so therefore the shor is potter. But yet, alma ein ma'amidim apotropos l'tam ligvos migufa b'rei maseifa shor shel cherish shot v'kotten shenogach bezdem ma'amidim lehem apotropos u'ma'amidim lahem b'fnei apotropos alma ma'amidim lehem apotropos l'tam ligvos migufa. If the Mishnah in the Reisha says potter, that contradicts the Sefer, which says that we appoint an apotropos. And the reason why we appoint an apotropos is explicit in the Mishnah, and that is because we want to make the shor into sharmua. So if that means that we're in the process of a shor tam that's going to become a sharmua, as long as it's still a shor tam, we collect migufo. When it becomes a sharmua, we're going to collect min aliyah and nezek shalem. But then it means that the cherishot v'kot nachayev. How do we reconcile this? The very underlying premise of Ma'amida Lem Apotropos is that there will be a payment, and the shor will be a guilty shor, and that contradicts the ratio that says the cherishot v'kot is pot. Omar Rav. Rav says the following. You're right. I have to admit that from the ratio, we see clearly that the Shcheres Shot V'Katan do not have an apotropos, and therefore they're potter. But Hachitani, im Huchzaku Nagchanim, if Bezdin sees that this shor is a belligerent shor, and it goes out and attacks animals, etc., is ma'amidim lehem apotropos mo'idim lehem b'fnei apotropos v'ashvina lehem muad d'chi hadav v'nogach l'shalach me'aliyah. Once Bezdin suspect that this shor is not a normal average shor, but rather it's a shor nagchan, then Bezdin wants to make sure that this shor should not be a menace and a damage to the public. They will therefore take the measures that are necessary in order to collect for damages. And that will create a deterrent and help and guarantee that people will watch and guard the shor. So what do? At that point, Bezdin says, we need to go through a process of ha'adah, and you can't be made in front of a cherishot v'kotten, so we'll appoint an apotropos. So the Gemara now clarifies. When it says that a shor muad pays min aliyah, which means that the payment and the compensation to the nizak is not limited to the gufo shel shor, because the shor muad is me'aliyas man. Who is actually shelling out to compensate the nizak when the shor is mazik? Bishlema, as long as it's a shor tam, then the nizak is going to be compensated from the gufo shel shor. But now the shor is a shor muad because we were made in front of the apotropos, whose money will be paid to the nizak to compensate him for the loss. who's really in essence guilty. And you and I would have said intuitively that it's the apotropos who is guilty. He's in charge of overseeing all of the properties and possessions of the Yosov. He's the one who should be guarding the shore. But the Gemara quotes a machlokas between Rav Yochanan and Rav Yosef. Rav Yochanan, Mi'aliyas Yisomim. We're going to collect from the Yisomim. And again, this appella, how can you collect from the Yisomim in the case of the Sharmuad when they're not guilty of any negligence? And therefore, the more logical approach would be that of Rav Yossi, Rav Chanina, or Me'alias apotropos. The apotropos is the one who should be shelling out and paying the nizak for damages. He's the one who was negligent in guarding the shore. The Gemara asks, "Umi Amar Rav Yochanan, Hachi Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Ein nizkakim lenichse yisom elam kein ribis ocheles bahen." Rav Yochanan Amar, O lishtar sheyesh bo ribis, o liksuvas isha mishum mizoni. Now, both Rav Asi and Rav Yochanan agree to one fundamental principle, and that is that Beis Din does not collect from nichse yisomim in the case of a debt. There are only a few very rare exceptions to this rule. One is ribis ocheles bahen. If the father borrowed money and somehow stipulated that the repayment would be with interest, and therefore that payment of interest is now eating up and consuming the properties of the Yisomim, because we have a principle that kol zman she'enam porim esachov tigdal aleim aribis kigon shelova migoy shemutar luvos men aribis. So this is a case where you're allowed to take ribis and charge interest, and the Yisomim are now going to suffer a loss, because with each additional day that passes by that the debt is not paid up, the ribis increases, and the loss for the Yisomim is going to be that much greater. Rabbi Yochanan gives another example. Not only is it a case of a shtar sheish bo ribis, but also for ksubas isha. What does this mean? A man dies, leaves both a widow and children, and he has an estate, and the ksuba now has to be paid up to the almana. And the law is that up until the moment that the ksuba is paid for the yisomim, if it hasn't been paid up to the almana, then the yisomim are obligated to support their mother or their husband, their father's wife. So now every day, with the passage of a day, increases the amount of mizonos that have to be paid from the bank account of the yisomim. So in those cases, because we want to protect the yisomim from losing money on a daily basis, Beis Din will step up and make that collection, whether it's the collection of the chov in the case of ribis, or the collection of the ksuba in the case of mizonos. Anyway, we see clearly that Rav Yochanan, as a general rule, holds that Beis Din will not collect from Yisomim. It's only these very rare cases. And the Gemara answers, therefore, Epuch, we have no choice but to switch around the names so that the shitas are not the way we recorded it, but rather it's Rabbi Yochanan Amar Me'aliyas apotropsim. And it means that according to Rabbi Yochanan, not Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Yochanan is the one who maintains that it's the apotropsim who are responsible to the damaged party to compensate him, because the apotropos, the agent of Beis Din, was negligent in guarding the shore. And Dafkitz Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina was switching around, who holds Me'aliyas ha'yisomim, that we're going to take the money from the bank out to the yisomim. But the Gemara is so convinced that the logic has it that we're not going to collect from the yisomim, that the Gemara is going to object. Amar Rav Mishum de Kasha de Rabbi Yochanan de Rabbi Yochanan Mashvislei de Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina Toeh. Okay, I identify, commensurate with the problem of a seeming contradiction between two positions of Rabbi Yochanan, but therefore you put Rabbi Yossi up to holding that strange position and that ruling that we're going to collect from the Yisomim for the pshia and the negligence of the apotropis. For Rabbi Yossi B'Chanina Daino who v'nochas lubka dedina, we know and we recognize the greatness and the depth of halachic thinking of this Rabbi Yossi, and now you're attributing to him a position which is untenable. Let's go back to the original position. And we had Rabbi Yochanan, who was the one who was saying that we're going to collect from Nichsei Yisomim. And the answer is Umazik Shaini. We now have a new category of an exception to the rule that Ein Bezdin Gova Minichsei Yisomim. Till now we said it was because of being monea to prevent the Hefsed HaYisomim. Now we have another concept, and that is Mazik Shaini. In other words, we want to make sure that the ox will be protected, will be guarded and supervised. If it's going to be hefker in such a way that no one is going to be paying compensation in event that the ox went out and attacked, then we're in a very dangerous situation. We have to also protect the nizak, and in this case, the nizak is the entire society of Israel. So what do? We impose a monetary payment. So it's fascinating because really the negligence here was on the part of the apotropis, but for some reason, which the Gemara is going to reveal that secret in just a minute, we cannot demand money payment from the apotropis. We're going to make a takana that the apotropis is alleviated of his responsibility to pay. But on the other hand, we can't leave it in such a way that the nizak has no recourse to get any compensation from anyone. And now the Gemara analyzes this machlokas about who has to pay the nizak. Rabbi Yochanan Elias Yisomim, we're going to collect this money from the Yisomim. Diamet Elias Apotropis, we cannot institute the main halacha, or shall we say the primary law, which is that the apotropis, because of his negligence, should be paying the nizak. And the reason we can't do that is because we have to appeal to people to take upon themselves the job of apotropis. Who wants to be an apotropis if he knows that it's going to incur obligations to pay money?